Hey everybody, it's Jopreneur Games, and in this week I'm going to do a quick tutorial on extending the MMORPG Kit. In this case, what we're going to do is take some core functionality in the player character controller and expose it to both input settings and the UI, and that's the auto attack, otherwise known as the WASD auto target. If you don't know what that does, you can turn it on and off the controller, but then that's the setting for everybody. I want to let players choose. Depending on their play style, it might change. You might have it turned on, and it's going to act more like point and click, and run from monster to monster and attack them. You might want to be more strategic and control your pulls and your aggro and that sort of thing, and turn it off. So depending on your play style, you want to expose that setting. So if I have it turned off here and I attack, you'll notice I just attack directly in front of me. If I turn it on here and attack, it acquires the target, closest target, and attacks them. So that's the basic idea. We're going to jump into that. So all that's, of course, controlled in the player character controller. Let's take a look at that. If we jump into this, we can see that I can attack it with a partial. Depending on what I'm trying to do, I might partial it or I might just override the class. And if I look for my input settings down here, you can see a lot of the core ones are obviously here. We're going to extend that. Let's kind of follow this thread and do the find enemy input. We can see that it's registering the input state manager in the update, or sorry, in the awake there, and then again in the update, it is it's looking for that key press. Actually, you can see it's here. It's kind of hidden in this function, which I know is going to be here under inputs. Let's find it again. So there we go. So it's looking for the press, and then it does some stuff. So that's kind of the basic logic that we want to implement. Let's go ahead and take a look at what I've done. Combat player controller. So I'll walk through this. We ended up creating a new class, inheriting the player character controller. Reason for that is this function right here, update. If we look at the core, there's really no great way for me to hook into the update. There's probably other ways I could do it, but not from this class. So I'm just going to override the class and do it that way. So if I walk through it here, we'll take a look at the auto attack input manager. So there we have a new one we're declaring. Register it there. This is going to have to be configured in the game instance. So if we run over to the game instance here and scroll down to input settings, this text here, auto attack, has to match here. Those have to match. In this case, I'm mapping it to backspace. Of course, I can configure that, expose that to configuration, let users choose their own key, but it's going to be backspace in this case. So we're registering it there. We're also looking at the update function, so it runs the base, and here we're seeing if that key is pressed, again the backspace, then we're going to do some things. So what are we doing? If I go back and look at the WASD lock attack target here, it's protected. I can work with that Boolean directly if I wanted to, because again, I'm inheriting from the class. I'm going to put a wrapper around it, which is here. So the get just returns that underlying variable. When I set it, but then I also store that in player prefs. Unity player prefs has a kind of an oddity. It doesn't have a Boolean, so that's what this extra little logic here is. Convert an int to a Boolean, but a Boolean to an int. But we're storing it in player prefs, and you can see kind of jumping back up here. When we awake, we're going to pull from player prefs and set the default value, right away based on what is in player prefs. So that's kind of the the gist of the logic. There's a little bit more because I want to expose this to the UI, but this should work as is, meaning that I can press backspace and turn on and off auto attack at will. For the UI, what I've done is I've cloned the gameplay canvas. I'm using mobile, but it doesn't matter which one you're using. And then way at the end here, I've created a new a new little area for me to work in called UI Combat. Create a script which inherits from UI base. Let's me toggle it on or off. And let's take a look at that component. So it's a basic UI component. In this case, with all those UI components, usually you have to reference UI elements. So I'm referencing a toggle, which is shown in the UI. On the awake, I'm pulling in the controller from the singleton. I'm registering for a delegate event, this on auto attack. So if we go back and look here, this is where I set up that delegate. And whenever the key is pressed, um, I I can go ahead and um, update the UI, right? So I'm telling the UI, hey, a key was pressed, do something. So that's what that delegate stuff is. So I'm registering that. Um, I'm also setting the default value of the toggle based on that stored pref, user preference. Um, Here's where it gets updated. So every time it updates, it's going to just reflect in the UI, the is on toggle. That's from the key press. Or I can go the other direction, and that is on the toggle itself. If I scroll down here to toggle, I have a basic Unity event, and I'm saying, hey, toggle the attack, on toggle out attack, which is going to be this function here. Checkbox is enabled or disabled, and again, I set that value of that wrapper property based on the checkbox value. So that's the entirety of the logic. I'm going to make this small little project available on Patreon, people that are subscribing. But